Do you think you might be a superstar, Mr. President?
His 3-day stay at Walter Reed saw him given drugs Regeneron, dexamethasone and remdesivir, with at least 2 hits of supplementary oxygen.
And he's returning to a facility, the White House Medical Unit, that's staffed 24/7, top-notch.
Back at the White House, he paused on the balcony.
He did take off his mask.
Likely expelling virus into the air.
He has coronavirus. He's shedding it.
This breaks every protocol.
What a bunch of bullshit.
As your leader, I had to do that. I knew there's danger to it, but I had to do it. I stood out front. I led. Nobody that's a leader would not do what I did.
And then an unhinged, irresponsible message about COVID-19.
Don't let it dominate you. Don't let it take over your lives. Don't let that happen.
It's cold comfort for the families of America's more than 210,000 dead, and a sign that Trump, just 5 days after testing positive, may not be taking his own diagnosis seriously.
Do you have concerns about potential worsening or reversal?
You're absolutely right, and that's why we all remain cautiously optimistic because we're in a bit of uncharted territory when it comes to a patient that received the therapies he has so early in the course. If we can get through to Monday with him remaining the same or improving, then we will all take that final deep sigh of relief.
True status was probably worse than they said. Essentially, he's had unproven therapies is the bottom line of his treatment. The reality is, though, if he's going to fall off the cliff with this, it's going to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday of this week. He may well be returning to hospital.
2 days ago, I felt great, like better than I have in a long time, better than 20 years ago. And now I'm better, and maybe I'm immune. I don't know.
He returns to a White House deep in the midst of a COVID outbreak. At least 12 people close to him have contracted the virus. Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany today announcing she too has tested positive.
We're going back to work. We're going to be out front.
Itching to get back campaigning, it's unclear how long Trump will stay in isolation.
Don't be afraid of it. Don't let it dominate your lives. Get out there. Be careful.
Get out there, be careful. Joining us now is Professor Joe Siracusa, a political analyst at Curtin University. All right, Joe, where do we begin here? What do you make of the president returning to the White House while infected?
Well, I tell you what, it's very strange behavior, and most of the doctors I've been checking and reading about and listening to the last couple of days say that it was insane for him to leave. He's still hospitalized as far as they're concerned. And he hasn't faced the worst part of his coronavirus, the COVID-19. It's going to hit him very hard in a couple of days. And frankly, you know, he's filled with all these unusual medicines and antivirals, et cetera. And I think the president is having a little mental lapse here. When he gets back to the White House, he tells everybody to drink the Kool-Aid. I mean, what's going on here?
So, Joe, if, like you say, the worst could potentially be ahead of him, is this a massive risk that could really backfire? He's showing, his strength by going back to the White House and getting on with the job. If he relapses or the coronavirus takes hold and gets worse, that's surely a huge risk.
Oh, it is a huge risk. Look, I'm not sure he understands the severity of what's happening or what he's encouraging people to do. I mean, it's got a lot of people disturbed, and I know it has a lot of people in Washington thinking about looking at Article 4 of the 25th Amendment of the United States, which would be removing him from his duties until he's regained consciousness.
And outside of the health risks, Joe, I mean, the backlash could also be to his campaign. Like, if he's doing the macho thing and then he's back in hospital in 3 or 4 days, how does that play out with the voters?
Well, let's get this straight. His campaign is over. He ain't going back out on the trail. As soon as he gets the worst of this, he's going to be bedridden for a number of days. Right now, his only race is to get as many antibodies in his body as possible.
I'm surprised to hear you say that, Joe. You genuinely don't think he'll hit the campaign trail again before the election?
Well, if he does, he'll probably exhaust himself and fall down. Look, I believe I had this COVID-19 when I returned from Europe via China in December and January, and this thing hits you like a horse. You go down for about 3 weeks, you take 2 more weeks to recover. So the president's not going to be able to handle this, particularly with his weight and his various risks, et cetera.
Joe, why do you think he's telling people to not worry about the coronavirus?
I don't think he really understands what he's saying, and he's surrounded by people who are afraid to correct him. Most of the people around him are dependent on him for their jobs, so they're not going to say too much about it. He doesn't have any guardrails here. There's no one to tell him that he's doing the wrong thing or that he may be ill. So what he's trying to do right now doesn't make any sense. And I think somebody should tell him that. The trouble is he's not listening.
Joe, it's all going to happen fairly rapidly, I've got a feeling, and the whole world will be watching. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Okay.
It's interesting, though, if he admits that it is serious, then he has to admit, because he's been the one in charge, that he hasn't been taking it seriously enough and that they're actually in dire straits. So maybe that's the only course of action to take.
But I like your point. Like, this is the image he's got now.
Yeah.
If he has the opposite of that image in a few days, he can't tweet anymore.
But he'll be right because he's immune.
Well, sure.
It's just surreal, isn't it? The saying I'm immune, like this whole situation is bizarre, but like surely that's tempting fate. Like going I'm immune is like in a horror film saying I'll be right back. Like it just seems bizarre to say. And just the whole situation, I mean, it's very serious, but also I was expecting when they said he'd come out of hospital, I'm just glad he didn't come out in the gown with the back missing. So at least that. But he's sick. Don't make him wear a suit. At least give him some tracksuit. Jesus.
The debate's not happening, I assume. Like,
well, who knows?
Well, we don't know.
Fine.
We don't know. He might be fine.